Welcome to A Drink of Wisdom with Jay Wise and Nathan Drinkard. I'm your host, Cody Ward. Thank you for spending some of your time with us today. As a reminder to all our listeners, besides being on all your favorite podcast platforms, A Drink of Wisdom is also on YouTube with each show segment available. Head on over, and if you like what you hear, we would appreciate your subscription. What's going on, guys? A little Saturday morning action. Get this wrapped up before college football kicks off. How you doing?
Saturday morning special, all the football and the NBA offseason in full swing. Let's go ahead and knock it out.
Let's talk some sports, baby. You know what it is, Cody. You said it. Saturday morning, we jumping into it, et cetera, et cetera. Don't let that get too far ahead of you. You know what it is. Pull up a seat. We got to speak. Let's roll, baby.
All right, on episode 17, the NBA offseason is in full swing with the draft in the books and free agency underway. We'll break it all down along with our usual college football preview. Let's go ahead and get going this morning with a look back to Thursday Night Football and some NFC West action. The Seahawks had their revenge against the Arizona Cardinals 28-21 after their overtime loss a few weeks ago. That win snaps a two-game skid by the Seahawks. Russell Wilson didn't post amazing numbers, but the offense was well-balanced and took care of the ball. The Seahawks' defense was really the biggest story. They contained Murray and Hopkins, and by the time the Cardinals shook it off, first half funk, it was little too late. The Seahawks improved to 7-3 and remain atop the NFC West for now, while the Cardinals fall to third in the hyper-competitive division. So, Jay, did this game change your outlook on either team going forward?
I wouldn't say it was a big change. I would say, obviously coming into this game, I thought Seattle would ultimately come out on top. But there was some concern based on how they looked over the past several weeks. Russell Wilson not looking like his MVP self or MVP caliber self that he was showing early on. And as you well know, we discussed this on multiple occasions. The Seattle defense, they've been pretty lackluster the entire season. I think that's putting it mildly. So of course, knowing I thought Seattle would win this game, but I wasn't incredibly confident. But this was there was some really good things that they did. There was a lot to like out of this win, even though it was a very competitive, close game. Still, Russell Wilson still not perhaps his best work as evidenced by his 43.4 QBR. But he took care of the ball. That's something that had kind of been going against him the last 2 weeks. A lot of interceptions, too many turnovers. But other than that, you look across the board, this running game for Seattle, despite some of the injuries without the likes of Chris Carson, Carlos Hyde had a pretty nice game for him. You also got Bo Scarborough in there helping you out. And, of course, Russell Wilson doing what he does with his legs. And then you look at across the board at what Arizona's running game was able to do. Well, they weren't able to do much of anything. Particularly with Kyler Murray, 5 carries, 15 yards. So just some outstanding work by the Seattle Seahawks defense, really doing a good job of containing him. I mean, I think it was a fourth down play where KJ Wright just did a fantastic job, keeping leverage and making things difficult and bringing Kyler Murray down. That's no easy task, as we've chronicled. So I think just overall, the combination of the Seattle Seahawks running game plus their defensive performance, because you got Carlos Dunlap making his presence felt with 2 sacks, including the game-clinching sack to end the game. Jamal Adams, making some plays, forced a intentional grounding on Kyler Murray, and also in the very next play, you had a holding penalty in the end zone. That was a big swing in this game. So when I look at Seattle, just overall, obviously we know Russell Wilson, we know this offense. We know how explosive they're capable of being. All we really need to see from them, and I think all really Drink would like to see from them, is they make some key plays in key situations. Just maybe 2 to 3 plays per game, and that's what you got in this game. You had the safety that they were able to force, and you had Dunlap get that big sack. And these are the type of things they can do when you talk about guys like Jamal Adams, guys like Dunlap, guys like Bobby Wagner. You have enough veteran guys with big experience, with big time talent, no doubt, that can do this for you. So really, I think if this is a good blueprint for them, even though I don't think this was their best performance offensively. You can credit the Cardinals defense for that. But on the other side, with the Arizona Cardinals, I think they were just. This is the type of game where you look at them and you think it makes you think they're a little bit ahead of the pace. I would say. I think we all looked at Arizona coming into this season. They were one of those teams we could kind of project that we could see some big improvement for them. I think they're ahead of schedule. I would have probably penciled them in for maybe 7 to 8 wins. Well, they're ahead of that pace. Their defense has definitely outperformed. I thought their defense looked pretty good last night. They struggled in some areas, but I thought both defense, for the most part, did a relatively good job keeping the quarterbacks, their running abilities, for the most part, in check. Even Arizona was able to do that. Russell Wilson wasn't able to get loose a whole lot. He did make a whole lot of plays inside the pocket, scrambling. But Arizona's still a little. They're still a ways away. I thought last night they made, or Thursday night, they made one too many mistakes. I thought that intentional grounding on Kyler Murray and then the holding penalty in the end zone was kind of spoke to the larger to them in the larger picture. And then Kyler Murray, that last drive, you're down by 7, the last drive of the game. And that's one of those moments where just another example of the Cardinals, they're a little too ahead of the pace, not quite ready for this moment. And I think we've heard some whispers of Kyler Murray. Maybe is he in the MVP conversation? Another example of as much as we like him, as much as we recognize his unique talents, wasn't able to make the throws on the final possession. A couple tight window throws that he quite didn't execute. And then you get sacked on the last play of the game on a 3-man rush. That's just something, I look at Kyler Murray. Maybe next year we're looking at him as a legit MVP candidate. But as of right now, Seattle's in the driver's seat in this division, and Arizona, they're definitely in play for a wild card, but just not ready for this. Just not quite ready to finish off a game like this.
I'm with Jay. The outcome of this game did not change my mind by either team. I still got Seattle. It did build my confidence a little bit that their defense can make a play. That's what I was worried about the most. But I'm still riding with Seattle as my NFC representative. And then as far as the Cardinals go, listen, they still are up and coming. Nothing about that game made me think, oh, well, maybe the hype train came too early. If you want to say the hype train came for Kyler Murray too early, okay, no arguments here. But as far as Arizona as a team, I think they're still on track to be a rising team and a contender here in the near future, depending on how many years you put on it. But I would tell you this, one marked difference I seen in this game that I didn't see in the first game was the way DJ Metcalf just wore out Patrick Peterson. And I'm going to tell you right now, in the first game, Patrick Peterson locked DJ Metcalf up. It was very hard for Russell Wilson to find him in that game. That role was flipped in this one. I don't know what Patrick Peterson was doing. I don't know what he had on his mind, but it was probably a 3-play stretch where I was like, man, this man about to come out after the game and ask for a trade like it's Arizona fault that he playing like this. I don't know. But, I mean, he got beat on one play by Metcalf. And then I want to say Carlos Hyde, the very next play, Carlos Hyde runs like a dive play to the right. And Patrick Peterson went to go make the tackle. And it wasn't pretty, folks. It was not pretty at the goal line. He got cream of the crop, got ran over. And then the next play, the next possession, DJ Metcalf just runs past him, catch. It was just a bad game for him.
You had the touchdown. They got wiped off the board by the hold, right?
Okay,
touchdown. Yeah, he got burned him, and then it was.
It was just one of the best games for my boy, Double Peasy over there, P Square. But another thing I saw that Jay mentioned. Listen, for all the hype that's surrounding Kyler Murray, he did not make that spectacular play that brought a lot of eyes to this game. You think they threw the Hail Mary, DeAndre Hopkins did his thing. That brought new eyeballs to this game, being there was a primetime, settle-on game, and you wanted to see some high-level magic out of Kyler Murray. I don't think he did that, but I'm not terribly mad that he didn't do that because the way he played kept his team in the game. It wasn't like he made the turnovers that kicked his team out or that lost the chance of winning this game. They had a chance to win this game. We seen what happened. Carlos Dunlap, it's kind of funny. You went and got this guy off the street and he's automatically the best player on your defense. That speaks volumes. Like, between him and Jamal Adams. Both guys you did not start the season with. Both guys are the best players on your defense. And I'm sorry, I love myself some Bobby Wagner. I love myself some KJ Wright. But here's the deal: that this defense was subpar at best. You went out and made these moves. At least you can make some stops. You probably don't make enough stops, but you make some stops. That give me some encouragement. And then as far as the offense, look, here's the deal. I mean, I'm about tired of looking at Russell Wilson like running around here like trying to save his own life. I mean, it was a play where he held the ball for 8 seconds. And I want to say this the play he scored the touchdown. He held the ball for 8 seconds in the first quarter. Eight freaking seconds. And then finally he goes on the scramble drill off to the right and he finds DJ Metcalf off in the corner. Once again, Patrick Peterson kind of 8 seconds, I can't be mad at him. That's a long time to cover a guy. It's very long time to cover a guy. So I can't be mad at a DB if he lose a wide receiver after 8 seconds. Like, that's fair. Like, come on, defensive line, let's do something. Put some pressure on this guy. Help me out back here. And it was plays like that I thought throughout the night that was very evident. A lot of scramble plays, a lot of extended plays, a lot of loose plays that beat the Arizona defense all night long. But, you know, to the question at hand, it does nothing for me as far as the overall goal of both of these teams. I do think it might have pumped the brakes a little bit on the Heisman talk for Kyler Murray. We'll see. It might have did something for Russell Wilson. I don't know. You got to wait and see how the rest of the weekend plays out. But overall, I think both teams are about where I had them before the game.
Yeah, this one was obviously, it was really big. We know how competitive that NFC West is. You know, the Seahawks now at 7-3 are back in first. The Cardinals, who were 6-3 coming in, who were first, are now third, and the Rams stuck right there in the middle, also at 6-3. So one loss, and you go from winning the division to scraping for a wild card. You know, it's pretty amazing. Poor 49ers, they just have no chance, it appears. But what really stood out to me was, you know, taking care of the ball. In the last 2 weeks, the Seahawks have not taken care of the ball, and predominantly, I mean, Russell Wilson is not taking care of the ball. He's had 7 turnovers in these last 2 games they've lost in this 2-game losing streak coming in. Now, they were 2 good teams. It wasn't like they were losing the bums out there. But that was the biggest problem they had, is Russell Wilson was having to force way too much. The defense was not helping him out. He was having to start just getting in all these wild situations, and they were turning the ball over, and they were losing games because of it. You know, he had 0 last night. And the numbers, they're not really gaudy when you look at them, but you factor that in, and you factor in the fact that he was pressured almost on 33% of his dropbacks. Arizona had pressure in his face. There was a couple plays, like you said, there was that one where he had like 8 seconds or he was just hanging out, but like it was either those plays or he had someone in his face almost immediately. And he was fantastic under pressure. I mean, he completed almost all his passes. Like, he had a great rating when he was pressured. But that's to me, that's the big difference, is can the defense make 1 or 2 plays? You're not going to stop them every time, but can you do enough? And they did more than enough, I felt like, last night, as far as what we know the Cardinals are capable of doing. You know, the defense, that was a great performance. That was probably the best one they put together all season. And I don't think it's any mistake that they had Jamal Adams healthy, and Carlos Dunlap has really kind of come on the scene. You guys both mentioned it, but, you know, 4 tackles, 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss, and 3 quarterback hits from Carlos Dunlap, a guy you traded a 7th-round pick for. I mean, like you said, like that's not good. If a dude you bring in at the last second for a 7th-round pick is blowing out the rest of your defensive line and looks like a world beater, I mean, that's rough. But I think that Jamal Adams, again, if you watched him last night, you know, he had a nice night as well. And the pass rush, when it did come, it came later in the game for the most part, but Jamal Adams did add a lot of that. And I think he is such a difference maker of that defense. If he's healthy, which I don't think he was last week, I think now he's kind of getting his legs back under him. You know, that makes, to me, it makes just enough of a difference, that defense. They go from not good enough to just good enough if Russell Wilson does what Russell Wilson does. So, you know, overall, though, for the Cardinals, they didn't really push the ball down the field enough, and to me, it just kind of stagnated the offense too long. And by the time they kind of started breaking out of the funk, it was just a little too late. So I don't think that's something they can do. They're going to have to keep with their shots down the field. They've got the guys to do it. They're going to have to just figure out how to do that a little bit better, and they got to get a little more balance. They run the ball a little bit more. Kenyon Drake's a great back. You know, you got to got to use them a little bit more. But the final thing I'll put out for Arizona real quick, it's nice to see if you're a fan that Isaiah Simmons was back in the stat sheet. He had 10 tackles, he had a sack, he had 2 tackles for loss and a quarterback hit, and he also had a nice breakup pass coverage. He's had a quiet year, but it looks like the last couple of weeks he's finally starting to get around, and it really got started in the first Seattle game where he had that big interception in overtime, which sealed it up. But he's starting to come around too. So if you're a Cardinals fan, you really have to feel good at 6-4. I know you lost, and your aspirations are always higher. But your rookies are coming around. Your quarterback's getting better. He's at least been in that fringe MVP conversation. Like, you got to feel pretty good about this. You're probably going to go to the playoffs this year, but this team, I think we'd all agree, they probably need one more year in the oven to cook, and then with the right moves, you could really have something. While Seattle, I mean, they should still be a contender. I think that every NFC team has flaws, and they have flaws too, but hey, mix it up and see if you can figure it out.